Hey guys, it's Marley. Welcome to my booktube channel. Today we're going to be doing my November reading wrap up. So I'm going to talk to you all about the books I read in the month of November. Spoiler alert, I might include this in the title or something. I feel like this is my worst reading month of the year. So kind of depressing to be going into December, the final month of the year, after such a bad reading month. But in a way, I kind of did it to myself. So anyways, let's just go through a little overview of stats before we get into the individual reviews. All right, let's take a look at my stats. So for books read, it was only 6 books. I honestly find that embarrassing for myself. I know my average is 8, only 2 more. But yeah, I'm really disappointed I only read 6 this month. I don't even know how that happened. A part of me is that a mistake? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess not. To be fair, the month of November is not actually over when I'm filming this. I just don't think I'm going to finish a book before the end of the month. So technically, maybe I will read one more, but I don't think so. So anyways, moving on from that, that was about 2,174 pages and an average rating of 3.25, which that's the thing. It's not even just that I read my lowest amount of books. Oh, actually, I read 6 in July too, apparently. But it's also, I feel my lowest average rating too. Books acquired is 1, own voices is 1. For the genres, we had 3 romances and then 1 thriller, 1 fantasy, and 1 historical. For format, it was an even split 50-50 between ebooks and physical books. For the audience age of the books, I read 4 adult books and 2 that were for young adults. So nothing's really that different than my usual reading. It's just these ones happen to be not as good. For author gender, I read from 5 female authors and then 1 non-binary author. The she's and they's letting me down. For author status, to me, I read from 4 new to me authors and 2 repeat. So maybe that's part of why I had an unsuccessful month. I was reading some new authors that just didn't work for me. Then in terms of year published, nothing too crazy. I had 2 books that came out in 2019, 1 from this year, 2024, 1 from 2021, and then we went back to 2018. 1 book from 2014 was my oldest book. All right, now for the book reviews. So my reading vlog from this month, the theme of it was reading books based on my name. In case you missed that, I will definitely link it so you can check it out. Definitely flopped a little bit, so maybe you didn't catch that one. So I think doing that vlog is definitely why my reading suffered. I was just reading some random books. That I didn't really have an interest in. They just had my name either in the title or the author name was Marley. First up, my least favorite book of the month, and this is probably one of my least favorite books of the year. We have Ache by Marley Valentine. This is a romance book. It is indie published romance, male romance. Okay, stop saying romance. We get it. So this book follows these 2 guys. I do not remember the one guy's name, and I remember the other guy's name was Gael. So let's just create a name for this man. Let's call him Justin, because I cannot remember. So we're following these 2 friends, Justin and Gael. They both get points of view, and we know that they've been friends since they were kids. Gael's family actually took Justin in when his parents kicked him out for being gay. So they've been very, very close for years, and Justin has basically always been in love with Gael. He's always known this about himself. It's been an unrequited crush is what we were led to believe. And now Gael is actually engaged to be married to a woman named Elena. So going in, that's kind of what we're learning. Then we get Gael's point of view, and we see that Gael is also in love with Justin. He's already aware that he also loves Justin. They just aren't together for some silly reason. And then we later find out as the book progresses that they both have kind of admitted their feelings to each other in the past. They've kissed in the past. Sorry if I'm spoiling a little bit, but we're going into this romance book starting out with both characters already in love with each other, already basically knowing that they're just not together for whatever reason, right? And so I just found that a very, very boring way to write a romance. If at least one of the 2 men, if Gael maybe just hadn't realized he loved Justin, that at least would have been interesting. We could have been seeing him come to terms with his feelings, figure it out. But the fact that he already basically knew how he felt was just so boring to me. And the fact that it was friends to lovers, they already know each other so well. We're not seeing any sort of relationship develop. In terms of plot, but Justin ends up taking Gael and some other men to Vegas for a bachelor party, and that is where things really get started between them. They finally admit their feelings together and it gets steamy. Another issue I personally had as someone who prefers a slow burn romance and not too much steam is that they were hooking up like first quarter of the book, I want to say, and that just doesn't work for me. But also I just think the writing was not good. These characters were not given much like characterization. Reading from both of their points of view, we even got Elena's point of view, the fiance, they all just felt the same to me. We didn't really know these characters and there was just nothing like interesting about it. Even when we had kind of a dramatic thing happen at the 50% mark that I really thought would maybe add some interest to the story, add some angst to the relationship, it still just didn't deliver. Okay, we're dealing with a bit of a situation here of really loud construction in my building, so I might be like turning the camera on and off filming this. But anyways, I was talking about Ake, and yeah, even after the halfway point where the plot kind of shifted, it was still not good. Like, no stakes. Things just got resolved so quickly. So yeah, not a good book. Another book I was really disappointed with. This one I actually had hope going into it based on the author, but we have The Pairing by Casey Mcquiston. I have loved, well, obviously Red, White, and Royal Blue I loved, and then their other books I have enjoyed. I've given like solid 4-star ratings to their other books. This newest one was a 2.5-star rating for me. It just kept going down and down the more I read this book, and I'm really, really sad about it. Casey is an auto-buy author for me, and now this is making me like rethink that. Construction. I'm so upset about that. So yeah, this is about obviously these two characters, Theo and Kit. And we have another friends to lovers situation here. Theo and Kit have grown up being childhood friends. Kit actually moved to the States when he was young, but he's originally from France. They just had this really nice friendship and kinship growing up, supported each other through some hard times and stuff like that. Then we find out from the very beginning, we get a little chapter that's called The Beginning, Theo's version, and then the end, Theo's version. And then spoiler alert, later in the book we get the beginning Kit's version and the end Kit's version. But Theo's version is where we're finding out how they were friends first. Theo always had this crush on Kit throughout their friendship, and then they actually admitted their feelings to each other when they were, I think, like 20 or early 20s, and then they started dating. They dated for a couple of years. They even lived together in, I think, in California. That's where Theo's from. We just know that the relationship ended when they were on some trip together or like in an airport. We don't know the details of it, but they had an argument and they broke up, and now it's been 4 years since these two have seen each other. So the real catalyst of this book begins when Kit and Theo both decide to go on this European trip that they had both booked when they were still a couple, and they just never went on, and now like the voucher's gonna expire or whatever. So both of them just happened to go on this European food and wine tour the same week. So now they are forced to spend time together again, sort of repair the friendship that they once had, because obviously they were friends for years before they dated. So they start to befriend one another again, get to know each other once again. In the meantime, they decide to kind of spark up this competition of seeing who can sleep with the most people on this trip. Sleep with the most like locals of every city that they go to throughout. I think they go to France, Italy, Spain. So we are seeing, this is one of my biggest gripes, and I think other people's gripes as well with this book, is that we are seeing these two people have sex or be intimate with so many other people besides each other. And I think for most of us in a romance book, we really want to be seeing the relationship between our two main characters and not really seeing them sleep with other people. We want to be building up that tension between the two of them and not like seeing them with other people. So that was definitely a turn off. Eventually, I mean, they do start being intimate with each other as well, but it just became like too sex heavy, like too smut heavy, at least for me. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. It was so many scenes. Okay. Another thing that really bothered me, I think Casey, no offense, but I think Casey must have went on this European trip and kept track of every single thing that they did. They regurgitated all into this book because it felt like there were so many details of every single aspect. We heard about every single meal they had, every single drink they drank. It was just so many details, and it got to be so repetitive because they went to a lot of cities in this book and we're getting so much description of all this food. And at first it started out kind of nice because Obviously, it can be fun to read about this really amazing, tasty food. Sometimes that's enjoyable to read about. It was too much. It was way too much. Like, the senses were overwhelmed. Like, we were getting described so many different things. It was just way too repetitive at the end of the day. Like, this is 400 pages, over 400 pages. For a romance, like, cut out some of those scenes, okay? Cut out some of the descriptions of the food, wine, etc. Cut out some of the sex scenes. Just way too much. I really want to stress that this is not your typical romance book, and I was trying to come to terms with that and enjoy it for what it was. This is definitely not your typical rom-com. It is queer. It was telling the rom-com story in just a different way. We weren't following our typical male-female heterosexual couple, and I was really trying to appreciate that for what it was. Unfortunately, as I've already described, as the book continued to be so repetitive and not to my taste, I just had to keep lowering and lowering my rating. I did finish it. I'm not a big DNFer, but I could totally see why some people would DNF this. And in the second half, it really just got to a point where there was really no reason these characters could not have been together. They had spent enough time with each other. They were being intimate with each other already physically. It just seemed like the author wanted to drag things out way too long. The characters could have admitted their feelings for each other a lot earlier. Again, it could have been edited down. I don't know where the editors were or why they didn't make any of those comments, but yeah, unfortunately, I was really disappointed with this. I just hope Casey can come back, redeem themselves with the next book for me. But yeah, that's my review of The Pairing. Next up, another one of my Marley reads was Miss Marley by Vanessa Lafaye. This is a Christmas story kind of prequel or retelling. The author was a big fan of Charles Dickens and A Christmas Carol, so she decided to write about the character Jacob Marley, who in the original story is like a ghost and was an old like acquaintance of Scrooge. In this book, we're finding out about his childhood, his sister, that's who Miss Marley is. He has a sister, I think her name was Clara Marley, seeing how they grew up poor and how they survived together and then eventually grew to have their own business, and seeing kind of the decline of Jacob's kindness. Like, he, you know, Scrooge and him, and they were besties, and so we're seeing how they were not very nice people, very greedy. All they cared about was money. It's rather a tragic story. I ended up giving it 3 stars. There was nothing inherently wrong with it. It just was a story that wasn't necessarily that interesting. I would only really recommend it for like really big fans of A Christmas Carol. You know, I think it's cool that fans are kind of adding to the story and what they think for these characters' backgrounds. I think that's neat. But yeah, it wasn't anything special and wasn't really anything I would be recommending you go out of your way to read. Next up, the third and final book for that Marley reading vlog was The QB Bad Boy and Me by Tay Marley. This is a book that was originally on Wattpad and then got so popular that now it has become published. This is a romance, and it is in fact a young adult romance. If you watch the vlog, you'll see I was a little bit confused of the age range that it was for due to a couple different reasons. Basically, this one is about the love story between Dallas and Drayton. So Dallas is a high schooler. She's a cheerleader, but she's not like other girls. She's not like the other cheerleaders. She's only a part of the squad because she loves dancing, but she doesn't really fit in with them. She's not really friends with them. Then we have Dallas. He is the quarterback of the football team, super popular guy. He's got tattoos. He smokes. He's a bad boy. Basically, their paths cross when Dallas like catches a football in the field. Again, so not like other girls. She's so cool. She can catch a football. And so Drayton immediately has an interest in her and kind of purposely runs into her car so he can then go and like talk to her after and like deal with the damages and like pay her whatever. Thus starts this romance between them. And this book was so, I mean, it was objectively not good and obviously very cheesy in how I'm describing it. You can get the vibe, but I actually enjoyed myself so much while reading this book for the most part. I actually found the tension between the two main characters really good. It had this fun little banter that was going on. In the book, it references Damon and Elena multiple times, which like is my favorite couple from TV. So I feel like I could tell the author's like taste in romance kind of matched with mine, and the dynamic between the couple. It was a very slow burn, which as I was discussing before, like I love that, and had very much like an enemies to friends to lovers. We really see like their friendship developing. Again, this tension is building up. So at the end of the day, that's why I didn't rate this horrendously. Like I actually had quite a fun time with it. But by the end, I did have to kind of acknowledge that there were some problematic elements in it, some things I just didn't like being involved related to like teen pregnancy. I feel like it was kind of like hyping up teen pregnancy a little bit. So yeah, 3.5 stars what I'm rating it. Not gonna be like recommending it to people, but I did have a silly fun time with it. Oh my gosh, okay, I think they finally finished that construction. Holy crap. Okay, 2 books left. Next up, we have My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This is a thriller, as you can probably tell. It's not too new. I think it was actually Samantha Downing's debut novel. I've heard quite a bit about it over the years. I've gotten quite hyped up about it. I know she has a few other thrillers out as well that people seem to enjoy. Unfortunately, I did end up being a little bit disappointed in this book overall. I still rated it 3.5 stars because I read it quite quickly. I did really enjoy the writing and everything, but I wish I enjoyed it more. So essentially we're following a couple. The guy's name, actually we don't actually know the guy's name. I didn't realize that until the end of the book when I was looking up other reviews and other people's thoughts, but I don't think we're actually ever given the actual main character's name, which is kind of funny. He goes by a couple like aliases during the book, but anyways, we get introduced to him in a very ominous way. I don't even know what to say about this book because like I don't want to spoil things, but it has been a while that it's been out. But we see this man basically like pretend to be deaf to like sleep with a woman. And so we're kind of seeing that his morals are definitely compromised to start with. And then we're finding out about the crimes that this man and his wife have committed together. And we're just kind of following these activities that they've done. We're seeing a lot of their kids and their overall like family dynamic. So yeah, I'm not going to say much more about the plot because I don't want to give stuff away. But what I will say is that I think overall this book was a little bit predictable. I think the main kind of twist is something you could definitely expect. And so that's why I was kind of saying like I overall enjoyed the writing and how the story, I guess, was progressing, the pacing. It was really easy to read, but then it left me feeling like, like I wish there was a little bit more of a twist to it, more of an impact. Maybe if I read it at the time where this idea was a little bit more fresh and new, I could have enjoyed it more, but I basically just felt like I was reading another like Gone Girl kind of book. Not that I read Gone Girl, but I have seen the movie. I think Gone Girl did so well because I think that was the first of its kind doing that kind of story. So every other story after that, it just is not as impactful. But I definitely read more from Samantha Downing. Then my favorite book of the month was Cress by Marissa Meyer. This is my most recent read as well. I finished it last night. I actually gave this one 5 stars. So this is the 3rd book in the Lunar Chronicles series. It's a sci-fi fantasy young adult series following these kind of fairy tale characters. So the very first book is Cinder. It is about Cinderella. So she is a cyborg in this world. Her stepmother like treats her like a slave. She's kind of an outcast because she's like half human, half robot. She starts helping out with the prince. And anyway, it's been a while since I read that first book. I can't really tell like all the details, but then the second book, we're following Scarlet. So like our Red Riding Hood character, but then we're still seeing Cinder's story. At the end of the day, Cinder is the main character in this world. There are these Lunars. It's the title of the series. The Queen of the Lunars is trying to like take over Earth. She is our like evil villain, our evil queen. And yeah, it's a fantasy sci-fi. So we're getting into like a war between worlds and stuff like that. This book now, we introduced our Rapunzel character named Cress. She was such a fun addition, and her love interest in this book, they were just so cute. Each book has its own like love story as well. I just think it makes these books so enjoyable. Like we have multiple love stories going on, multiple interesting characters. And by this 3rd book, I left in my Goodreads review, I really feel like this is going to be the peak of it. Like I don't know if this final book is going to beat this for me. Just having all the main characters like together, but then also get separated and have their own journeys going on. It just was so enjoyable to read, and it's over 500 pages, which I felt a bit daunted about, but then it was fine. Like, I got through it relatively quickly. I enjoyed reading it every time I picked it up. I wasn't gonna give it 5 stars necessarily. I knew, I'm like, this is a 4 or 4.5. Like, I really enjoyed it. But with it being towards the end of the year, I've been reflecting on my reading year, and I realized I barely had any 5 stars this year. I've given out, I think, 7 5 stars, and I've read nearly 100 books. And I just think that's really sad. And I know I did want to be like a harsher rater or reviewer. I wanted to give out less 4 stars. I wanted to be a little bit more of a critical reviewer, but I've realized maybe I'm being too critical. Like, maybe I just need to accept when books are 5 stars and stop saying they're 4.5. So I went ahead and did rate this a 5 star because I'm like, you know what? I need some more 5-star books this year. Like, this is depressing to not have like barely any. So I went ahead and gave it that full 5-star rating because I mean, yeah, like, what would I have changed about this book? Really, like, I don't even know if I could think of a flaw. I don't think I can think of a flaw, and I know I've talked about a lot of flawed books in this video. So yeah, this was my favorite book of the month. Yes, one of my favorites of the year. I'm so glad I got back into this series because I read the first 2 books quite a while ago. Couldn't even remember a lot of it, and that didn't even matter. Like, this just pulled me right back in and caught me up on everything that was going on. So one more book to go in this series. Very excited about that. So that is my reading wrap up. As you can see, not a great reading month in terms of the ratings and the amount of books, but please let me know how your reading month was. Or of course, let me know your thoughts on any of these books that I read in this month. And yeah, I hope you will subscribe if you have not already for more bookish videos, wrap ups, reading vlogs, all that kind of stuff. And hope you have a great final month of the year. I'll see you next time in a brand new video coming soon. Bye.